Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about having a social life and managing that with sleeping and school during graduate school. So often a frustration that I really have is with people always saying that a con of graduate school is that you can have no social life or no time to do things that you want to do because you always have to focus on school. Whenever I was first looking at going into graduate school, I often saw people having this advice where they'd show you the triangle that had social life, school, and sleep on it, and then they would tell you you could only choose two of the three. So I graduated with my PhD in 2019, and my experience did not match this choose to, you can't have any social life while you're in grad school experiences. If you're also a grad student, I'd love for you to comment below and kind of leave your own experiences going through this and dealing with having a social life in grad school. Today, I just wanted to talk a little bit about my experiences because I think hearing other people's experiences can give you a good idea about what graduate school could be like instead of just always hearing advices. So I wanted to go through kind of what I experienced with school and sleeping and actually managing my social life throughout grad school. If you stay till the end, I'm going to talk about how you can balance your life and actually be able to maintain mental health and still be productive in graduate school. So, when I was in school, I generally spent probably about 8 hours a day doing schoolwork, or at least being at school. A lot of times I would tend to take some of my work home and in the night either do some like data analysis or work, or honestly, a lot of the times I was just sitting with my computer up while watching TV. So there are always those days where you're going to have to spend 10 to 14 hours at school because you have some experiment you have to run or you just have to get a lot of things done. And on those days, of course, you're not going to be focused on maintaining your social life or sleeping a whole lot. So overall, I would say I probably spent somewhere between 30 and 50% of my time in graduate school actually doing graduate school, doing my research, my teaching, and my classwork, and everything else that I had to do to get through graduate school. So now let's talk about sleeping. I'm a huge sleeper. I probably through grad school, I got about 8 to 12 hours of sleep a night, and sometimes I would sleep for 10 hours regularly. I realize I am clearly not a normal case, and most people probably get between 6 and 8 hours of sleep during grad school, I would say. But I don't think that you have to give up all of your sleep during grad school. I definitely don't feel like that was the case for me or most of the people that I was with, unless they weren't being productive regularly during school time. So if they always, kind of use their school time to not get schoolwork done, and then right before a big deadline, they would have to pull all-nighters regularly because they didn't do that work consistently over that time. So I feel like that's one of the big drivers for why people feel like they didn't get a lot of sleep in grad school. So in my social life, I'm really a natural introvert. I don't like going out places a lot. And I'm not like a bookworm. I don't like love to sit at home and read. I honestly just love chilling at home. So my experiences might be a little bit different than a lot of people's. So I had probably three super close friends throughout my time in grad school. And then I had a larger friend group that I would go out with. We would all kind of go out together and go drinking or do whatever we wanted to do. So I probably went out, I would say probably once a month I went out drinking. There was one semester that I think every Friday night we went out drinking, and I wasn't really unproductive that semester. I just, kind of grew out of that and stopped wanting to do that after that semester. So a lot of the time that I was socializing in graduate school would actually be when me and one of my friends would either go out and get coffee in the middle of the day because we were super tired, or we were hanging out in our office just talking about life, or even sometimes when we would actually take our work down to a coffee shop and get work done, but mostly spend the time just talking to each other. Another big part of my social life is that I was in a relationship throughout my graduate school. I started my relationship in the first month of me going to graduate school, and I was in the same relationship throughout that. So there's a lot of time that I spent with my partner. So a lot of the people that say that you can't have a life during grad school or can't have a social life, you'll find that if you ask them what were they doing outside of schooling, they almost always had something that they were doing on the side. So either they were trying to like set up their own new business, or they had a hobby that they were really into, or something else that was taking up a lot of their time. So overall, especially looking not only at my own experiences, but looking at what other people did and how I regularly saw other people at the same kind of parties that I was at, and when we would go out drinking, there was a lot of us there. It wasn't just me and like one or two friends that just happened to have a light course load that semester or whatever. I feel like a lot of people tend to have some form of a social life in graduate school. A reason why I think it's so important to address these things is primarily because when you're sharing this myth that you can't have a social life in grad school or you can't get sleep in grad school, you're doing two major things. One is that you're telling people that want to go to grad school that they're not going to be able to have a life, that they basically have to give up 5 to 7 years of their life to advance their career. But I think overall, like, graduate school can actually be really fun and can be a whole different new experience for people. The other thing that I think talking about the fact that you can't have a social life in grad school does is it will make people who are really wanting to be good at graduate school and they want to be that good student, they feel really guilty anytime they take time to have a social life. So for me, whenever I was taking time, even like I said in the evenings, when I would just sit there with my laptop open watching TV, my laptop would be open because I would feel guilty that I was taking time away from school. And this was something that actually me and my partner got into a lot of fights about, because I would constantly be like, I have to do work, I have to do work. And he would be like, you have to do work. And I was like, well, I don't really have to do work. Like, I'm not going to fail a class if I don't do work right now. I'm not going to be behind in school if I don't do work right now. But in grad school, there's always something you could be doing. And so when you feel like everyone else is constantly sitting there doing those things and not taking the time for themselves and not having a social life, you can feel really guilty for actually indulging the things that you need to be human. So when I brought up earlier about the triangle and how you have sleep, your social life, and school, I think we really need to relook at what that triangle should be. So I've kind of made up my own triangle where instead of having social life there, I have me time, which is basically anything you want to do that's not related to school or sleeping. So for most people, we want to go exercise. We maybe want to get out in nature. We want to socialize with people. We can have hobbies. We can do all of these other things that make us happy and everything else, but it's not just social life. So I think if people thought about their three sides of their life being those three things, the things they do for themselves, the things they do for their career, and then sleeping, because we all need sleep, I think they would instead be like, okay, well, yeah, I did kind of equalize between those things. Or at least if they were happy in grad school, they probably did equalize between those things. And if they weren't, they were probably way too focused on schooling rather than fulfilling those things. So in my triangle, that should be shown up here, you can spend kind of equal amounts of times on each of those specific things, but then you have this kind of middle area that's kind of shaded with all three colors. And that area kind of changes depending on your day to day. So like every day you're going to have to do certain things, like hopefully showering and getting ready for the day and all of those things that are your me time. And you're going to have to get some sleep pretty much every day. And then you're probably going to need to do some form of schooling most days. And then you have this intermediate time where when school gets really hectic, you can kind of take a little bit from the me time and your sleep time to kind of handle all your schoolwork. And then when school is not as hectic, you can have more of your me time and your sleep time. And so you're kind of equalizing between those things, where every day you're probably never going to have an equal amount of time spent on each of those things. But over the period of graduate school, you probably could find times where you spent about equal amount of times on all of those things. So overall, I basically just wanted to say, yes, you can have a social life in graduate school. And you can do things without feeling guilty. So if you want to go out with your friends, graduate students just need to stop feeling guilty for not doing work, because any other job, you have a clock out time and you don't have to be doing work all of the time. And if you want to see more content like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And also like this video, and this can support me and let me know what type of content you like to see. And if you want to leave comments below this about your experiences, I'd love to see kind of how other people experience grad school, and if they feel like my experience kind of makes sense in their eyes, or if they are completely against what I'm saying in this video. I'm actually really interested in getting some comments, and I will see you next week.